Stop trusting that gold trigger just because John Browning's name is stamped on the receiver. Heritage did not stop a trigger guard built from cheap zinc alloy from snapping in half. Heritage did not stop a synthetic stock from turning sticky and bubbling inside the safe. And Heritage did not stop a federal lawsuit or a safety recall on rifles that could fling themselves right off your shoulder. Here is the deal. Browning built some legends. They also built 5 rifles that turned thousands of dollars of walnut and steel into expensive paperweights. Today, we are counting down the 5 worst hunting rifles this storied brand ever shipped, and the top spot might make you walk past the gun counter. Sliding into the 5th spot, we have got the Browning T-Bolt, the rimfire rig built to drag straight pull speed into modern hunting. It feeds on 22 long rifle and 17 HMR, chambered for the hunter who wants bolt action accuracy without giving up a single second between shots. On paper, the stroke should feel like pulling a drawer straight out of a dresser. Clean, quick, no wasted motion. In the field, plenty of owners get something closer to dragging a rusted zipper halfway up a winter coat. The bolt catches. It hesitates. And right when a coyote breaks cover, that hesitation costs you the shot. Here is the mechanic's insight nobody puts in the marketing copy. Unlike a rotating bolt, which uses camming leverage to rip a stuck case loose, a straight pull system relies on raw arm strength alone for that first critical moment of extraction, called primary extraction. When carbon builds up or the chamber runs tight, the dual extractor claws on the T-bolt do not have the mechanical advantage to win that fight. They slip off the rim, and a swollen brass case stays locked in the chamber, meaning your fast-cycling rimfire just turned into a single-shot rifle with a cleaning rod jammed halfway down the bore. Here is where it falls apart for me. This is not a rare fluke. There are documented cases of total action lockup on a brand new T-bolt, sometimes on the very first round fired, with the bolt handle refusing to move and the trigger dead in your hand. A straight pull gun has zero leverage advantage to fight through that jam, so the rifle goes from field ready to a workbench project in one bad cartridge. For a platform built entirely around the promise of speed, that is not a quirk, that is a liability. And the trigger group does not help the case. Browning molded the entire fire control housing out of polymer, which means the heavy factory trigger pull cannot be smoothed out the way a steel sear can. Honestly, that is a rifle asking you to trust it in a split-second moment, built around a part that fights you on the way in and can fail you on the way out. Climbing up to the 4th spot, we have got the entire Browning A-bolt lineage. The A-bolt, the A-bolt 2, and its budget cousin, the A-bolt 3. This platform built its name on a smooth 60-degree bolt throw and 3 sturdy locking lugs, married to a hybrid magazine that locks a detachable box straight into a hinged floor plate. Run your finger across that factory trigger, and it rolls over like gravel under a boot. Gritty, uneven, nothing close to the crisp glass rod break Browning's reputation promises. Here is the mechanic's insight. Instead of machined steel or aircraft-grade aluminum, Browning built the trigger guard and floor plate assembly out of a cheap zinc alloy, what gunsmiths bluntly call pot metal. Zinc is brittle under shear stress, and over years of temperature swings, it corrodes from the inside through a process called galvanic decay. Tighten that action screw to factory spec, or just bump the guard against a fence rail in the field, and the metal can snap clean through right at the screw holes, turning a $1,000 rifle into a gun with no way to hold its own action together. This is where the wheels come off for me. It is not a cosmetic complaint. A cracked trigger guard means the action can no longer seat properly inside the stock. There are documented, if rare, cases of an entire locking lug shearing clean off the bolt body during extraction, leaving a jagged piece of steel jammed inside the chamber. That points to inconsistent heat treatment at the factory. Not bad luck. Browning's budget answer, the A-Bolt 3, swaps the pot metal for a plastic trigger housing and a heavy, non-relieved bolt shank, adding weight without adding reliability. For a brand sold on the promise of buy it once, that is not a quirk. That is a structural failure waiting on a calendar. Climbing into the third spot, we are talking about the Browning BBR, the Browning bolt rifle that rolled out in 1978 to go toe-to-toe with the Remington 700 and the Winchester Model 70. It locks up with 9 total lugs across 3 rows, married to a 60-degree throw, and Browning built the whole platform around raw structural strength. Shoulder it, and the BBR does not feel like a hunting rifle. It feels like hauling a fence post through the timber, front heavy, stubborn, the kind of weight that turns a 10-mile ridge into a 15-mile grudge match by the 3rd hour. Here is the mechanic's insight most reviewers skip. Browning mounted the trigger group as a cantilevered piece, hanging off the back of the receiver instead of sitting flush beneath it like a Remington 700. That means when a gunsmith beds the action in epoxy, even a few thousandths of an inch of tilt flexes that overhanging trigger housing upward. A flex that small changes the geometry between the sear and the firing pin, which can quietly eat away at your safety margin against an accidental drop fire. One bad bedding job, and the most dangerous part of the rifle is the one you cannot see. Honestly, this is where the BBR falls apart for me. Carrying that much excess steel just to hold 9 lugs is a mission killer on foot, and Browning paired all that weight with a walnut stock that was never reinforced for the Magnum chamberings it was sold in. Feed a 300 Winchester Magnum or a 338 Winchester Magnum through this rifle long enough, and the stock can split right down the pistol grip from recoil stress. The wood was never built to absorb. That is not a minor irritant. That is a rifle that can come apart in your hands at the worst possible moment. I already know plenty of BBR owners are ready to fight me in the comments over this one. So go ahead, tell me your stock never cracked. I am genuinely curious to hear it. Stepping up into the second spot, and the field is thinning out fast now, we have got the Browning BLR, the lever action that tried to marry Old West speed with modern, high-pressure Spitzer cartridges like 6.5 Creedmoor and 300 Winchester Magnum. Instead of a tube magazine, it runs a detachable rotary bolt head off a rack and pinion gear system hidden inside the receiver. Run that trigger, and you are not getting a clean break. You are dragging a rake through wet sand. 8, sometimes 10 pounds of mushy, creeping resistance before anything happens downrange. Here is the mechanic's insight, and it is the whole reason gunsmiths dread this rifle. The lever is bolted directly to a pinion gear that rides along a toothed rack machined inside the receiver, and that gear has to be timed to a level of precision most lever guns never require. Knock that timing off by just one tooth during reassembly, and the lever will still stroke smooth as silk. But the rotary bolt head will fall a few thousandths short of full battery. The locking lugs will not fully engage the barrel extension, and the internal safety sears will sense that the action is not truly closed. The result is a dead trigger, or worse, a half-cock malfunction where the hammer drops part way and stops cold. Here is where it falls apart for me, and it is not cheap to fix. Retiming that gear cage after a full strip down can eat 2.5 hours of trial and error, and most independent gunsmiths simply refuse to take the job. Push the rifle hard with hot hand loads, and the camming pins inside the bolt head can dent the cam track itself, turning a stiff lever into a permanently ruined one. For a platform built around the promise of speed, the repair bill alone is enough to make you walk away. This one earns its spot on the list, fair and square. But wait until you see what is sitting at number 1, because it carries this same kind of mechanical heartbreak, plus a federal recall sitting right on top of it. We made it to number 1, And this is not a victory lap. This is the worst hunting rifle Browning has ever sold under its own name, the Browning BAR Sporting Model. It runs a short-stroke gas piston system built to cycle big Magnum loads like 300 Winchester Magnum at full self-loading speed, putting follow-up shots in the hands of a hunter who never wants to work a bolt handle again. Let that gas system sit dirty for one season, and cycling the action feels like cranking a rusted gate hinge in January. Stiff, grinding, fighting you with every ounce of carbon baked onto the metal. Here is the mechanic's insight, and it explains why this rifle terrifies gunsmiths. The gas plug regulating that piston is cut with caliber-specific threads, and when carbon and corrosion lock it in place, there is no clean way to back it out. Gunsmiths end up welding a steel nut straight onto the plug just to get enough surface area for a wrench, and that heat can quietly alter the heat treatment of the barrel steel sitting inches away, robbing you of accuracy you paid a premium for and never even knew you lost. Here is why this one takes the crown of the worst. It carries the same kind of maintenance nightmare that put rank 2 on this list, except here it is a welded-on gas plug instead of a mistimed gear. It shares rank 3's risk of falling apart in the field, except here the failure point is a peened timing latch chewing itself apart inside the receiver instead of a cracked stock. But what truly seals it at number 1 is something the others never had. A real factory recall on certain camouflage and black synthetic BAR Mark III rifles for sling swivel cups machined out of spec that could pop open without warning. That is not a rifle slipping off your shoulder. That is a loaded firearm hitting the ground, with a very real chance of firing on impact. Heritage does not cover that. Nothing covers that. So there you have it, 5 rifles wearing the Browning name, and 5 very different ways to get burned. A trigger guard that rots from the inside, a stock that splits down the grip, a gear that goes out of time, a bolt that locks up cold, and a gas system that can turn a hunting rifle into a falling, loaded liability. Heritage builds trust. It does not build reliability. Before you hand over your hard-earned money for that walnut and blued steel, do your homework, check the serial number against the recalls, and talk to a gunsmith who has actually opened one of these up. Do not be a victim. Get prepared.